ahead and get started. All right. Great morning, everyone. I'm so excited to have you all here. For those of you that are new, this is our Breakthrough Mastermind group. And ultimately, the premise of the Breakthrough Mastermind group is to help people change who they are, what they are, or where they are in life. We do this by creating a strong foundation. That is the premise of each of these 8 lifestyle categories. Today's category is personal development, one of my all-time favorites. Now, the overall mission of Breakthrough Mastermind Group is to empower others through the leverage of knowledge to enhance ourselves both personally and professionally. We have 2 phenomenal speakers today. Both people are very close to my heart, so I'm so excited to hear from both of them. I know they're going to bring the heat as they always do. But for those of you, again, it's very simple. We will introduce both Suzanne and Hayden. We'll give them the opportunity to speak. We do have a closer knit group here today, which is awesome. That means we'll have better questions and opportunities to ask and give input. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and jot them down until both speakers speak, and then we'll go ahead and open the floor to Q&A. So Suzanne, Hayden, because of the small knit group, I'm really just going to give you guys the floor. As long as you don't speak over 25 minutes, you're good. But, you can speak for as long as short as you want to. You both have the capability to share if there's anything that you do want to share on the screen. And I'll go ahead and do the intro. So Suzanne is phenomenal. She goes by the Productive Business Development Coach. But I had the pleasure of meeting her through a mutual friend months and months and months ago. It's actually coming up on a year almost, Suzanne, which is crazy. But she is, you'll see, her energy is absolutely contagious. She is a phenomenal individual. She's an excellent business owner. She's also a mother, incredible person. You definitely need to get some time and speak with her. I can't say enough good stuff about her. So I'm going to go ahead and give her the floor, and then we'll introduce Hayden after. So Suzanne, it's all you.
Well, Keegan, you are officially hired as like my hype guy, because holy shit, that was great. Thank you. Feels good. Appreciate you. So as Keegan was saying, I am the Productive Business Development Coach. So basically my primary job is to work with medium and large size organizations. I come in and kind of, shake up their snow globe, kind of figure out what's going on, tear apart their internal structures, and look at their systems, their strategies in business development, inside of also marketing, sales, and then of course in the mindset, because really it's where it starts and where it ends is in the mindset. So no change happens when the mindset's not clear to do so. So I do a lot with like team building and leadership and things along those lines. But really my favorite thing in the world to do is to come in and talk to CEOs and tell them that they're being a raging asshole. And that's the reason why their shit's not working. Because really 90% of the time, that's usually the problem. So I work with these larger companies. And then of course, due to COVID, I actually opened up to the small business space as well. So I offer trainings to startup companies all the way straight through to small companies that have like a couple of employees here or there and are looking to expand and grow. Because really we kind of all had to come together as far as I'm concerned during COVID and help each other out. So I was able to create systems that were able to do that and work with these people in that space. So that's basically who I am. When it comes to personal development, I can definitely say I've come a long way in my own personal life. And the reason why I've done that is because I learned a lot throughout my years. I'm 40 years old now. I'm a single mom. I have 4 kids. Yes, 4. Okay. So there's a reason why my hair is red. I'm Irish. I drink. So that's why. I'm sorry, Marlene. I didn't mean to make you spit out your coffee there, honey. But I've learned a lot over the years. So I can say that, I didn't start at a place where I was like, being completely enlightened and knowing what I wanted for myself. I started where everybody else started, which is, being a stupid teenager and making stupid decisions, because we all start there, right? It's not until we get into the later points of our life, like around between like 34 and 43 is like what they used to call midlife crisis, right? So there is technically still that midlife crisis that we deal with. but it's either one thing or another. It's the crisis stage where you can't figure out your shit, or it's the enlightenment stage when you finally become one with your being. And you have to kind of choose which path you want to go on. Becoming one with your being means that you finally truly aligned with what you were intended to do. Getting yourself into that space where you truly understand, this is who I was meant to be, this is what I was meant to do, this is how I was supposed to help, and this is how I'm supposed to serve. And becoming one with that and really incorporating that into your life, that's the time when it no longer is your midlife crisis, it's your awakening. You hit that point of being woken the fuck up, right? Shaking your snow globe. That's really what it is. And so there's a lot of people that still live in that crisis state of like, oh, I'm just dealing with my midlife crisis. I just bought a new car. I'm cheating on my wife. I'm doing all this stupid stuff because I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And then there's the people that are up here and in that alignment. So you have to kind of realize that there is that point in life. We have these awakenings throughout our entire life, right? Starts when we're two, right? They call it the terrible twos, right? Terrible twos. Why? Because we're coming into our own. We're testing our limits. We're trying to figure out who we are. We're trying to figure out like what we want to be. We're learning we have a personality. We're learning that we can be defiant because we have free will. And at two, that's when those things are pushed. That's when those limits are pushed. And that's why they call it the terrible twos, because we're coming into our own and we're no longer being complacent. We're learning. Happens again when we're that shitty teenager, right? Again, we're making decisions. We're coming into this place where we're coming into our own and we're making these decisions of what we want to do and what we think we want to do. And we don't want to listen to adults and we don't want to listen to the people around us. We want to do what we want to do. So again, they call it being, an asshole teenager or off the teenage years, like, oh, I'm surprised my teenagers are still alive. Like all of that stuff is what society tells us that it is. And really, it's our development. It's our awakenings. So we have an awakening and terrible twos. We have an awakening when we're a shitty teenager, and we have an awakening when we hit that midlife crisis. We have these awakenings that just happen throughout our lives, and they will continue to happen. And you have to decide how much you want to actually be woken up. You have to make that decision. Do you want to become aligned with what you want and what you need? Or do you want to just continue to just kind of go from day to day to day and be like, oh, okay, well, I woke up today, so I guess I got to go to work? Or do you want to wake up in the morning and say, thank you so much for a brand new day with brand new opportunities, with these amazing things that are going to happen today. Thank you so much for the amazing news I'm going to receive today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And give that gratitude and give that appreciation, and know that no matter what happens during that day, it could be good, it could be bad, it could be ugly, whatever, doesn't matter, because you started your day in a good way. I can tell you that like I had such a bad routine. I was told, oh my God, it's going on 12 years ago now. 12 years ago, I had gotten very, 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 very sick. And when I had gotten very sick, actually it was prior to that, I'm sorry, it was about 14 years ago that I had gotten very sick. 12 years ago, I was told I wasn't going to walk. I was told that I wasn't going to be able to get out of bed. I was told I was going to be on 25 medications for the rest of my life. I was told, just deal with this. This is your new life. And I turned to the doctor and I said, that's unfucking acceptable. And I learned what I had to do to take my life back. And it was a long journey. My husband walked out on me at that time. I was dealing with all the kids on my own, struggling to even get to the bathroom because it hurt so bad to be able to get up and walk. And now on average, I hit 24,000 steps in a day. Easy. I'm doing the 75 hard challenge. I'm out there constantly. I'm working out twice a day for 45 minutes each time. I'm constantly moving. I pace when I talk. I talk with my hands, as you can tell. I'm moving when they told me that I wasn't going to be able to, because I wasn't going to be dealing with what they were going to tell me. Blame it on the shitty teenage years of not wanting to listen to what people wanted to tell me what to do. But I continue to look at that as that's what continues to power me forward. When people tell me that I can't do something, I'm like, well, watch this shit then. Because I take that as a challenge. I take that as that ability to really just drive it forward. And, I went from this horrible time in my life to 8 years ago, drove past this amazing property and fell head over heels in love with it. And I was like, you know what? That's it. That's my dream house. I'm going to live there. And I was dating some.
You're muted, Suzanne.
Oh, sorry about that.
You're back.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me? Okay, cool. I was like, bro, now that you told me that I can't do it, now I have to, just to spite you because you said I can't. And that was 8 years ago. I moved into it 4 years later and rented it. And I bought it a year ago. And now I own 3 houses on 10 acres of land on a beachfront estate because I was told I couldn't. So again, we have to make that decision. How woken up do you want to be? How much do you want to shake up your snow globe? How much do you want to make these transitions happen in your life? Because you can make anything happen. You just have to own what you want to make happen. And that's my TED Talk.
Beautiful. I loved it, Suzanne. Thank you so much. I think there were 3 really big keys that stood out to me. Again, guys, if you have questions or comments, if you could jot them down. But I love the concept of the awakening. We always have a choice, and you can either choose to stop doing one thing or to start doing something else. That is a choice. That is your own privilege. And I love how Suzanne told the story about the house, because I know that story from you, but it's really interesting to hear it again in light of the personal development, because it's that you can't have this, so then you work really hard to get to it and achieve it. So I love that. The other thing that's critical that has stood out to me on every single mastermind group that we've had is the power of habit and routine. This isn't like a short-term fix. This isn't a today. This isn't when it feels good. This is a long-term solution. This is something that is required every single day. And then again, the third one is really the power of that decision again. So Suzanne, you mentioned it beautifully that we have to have that choice. How are you going to use the day? We all have the power and the opportunity to look at anything, any way that we choose. So thank you so much. I appreciate your insights and your story. Next up, we have Hayden. I think a lot of you have already met Hayden. He is our personal development wizard, as I call him. He loves this stuff. And for those of you that don't know, Hayden and I met, I'm very grateful to have met him in Chicago years ago. We were very fortunate to build a relationship, friendship, and continue to grow this outside of our introduction in Chicago. Hayden runs a book club. He runs a spiritual group. He is crushing his new job, which is really exciting. He's been a business owner multiple different times. I mean, this guy is just a wealth of knowledge. So I know he's going to bring the fire. Please help me introduce Hayden.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. How's it going? That is a tough act to follow, Suzanne. That was powerful. So thank you for speaking about waking up. I think it is a pivotal moment in everyone's life when they realize that they are in control. They just need the right fuel source, the right why, the right driving factor to decide to make a change. And most importantly, I think to commit to that change. So that was crucial. And I think you really got people, like you said, in the mindset to be willing to change, which nothing happens if that's not the mindset. So thank you so much for that foundation this morning. And Keegan, I don't know about Wizard. I simply just have a passion for this stuff. I just love it. I'm addicted to making the choices that I think will serve my future self and will serve others. And that's really it. I just have the utmost passion for this. It's personal development isn't something that I think I have to do. It's something that I get to do every morning, every day. And hopefully this talk I'm going to be giving on choices, I think will will hit home with some of you, and we'll start to wake up to the simple choices just repeated consistently that we can make to really enhance our lives and the lives of those around us. So Keegan, again, thank you so much for the intro and the platform. So I want to start off with a question. If everyone could raise their hand, who here had an alarm clock or phone go off this morning to wake them up? Okay, Suzanne, I love it. Now I want you to be honest here. Hold a hand up if you hit snooze at least once. Ashley, Matt, thank you for the transparency. Suzanne, Marlene, thank you for the honesty as well. Now hold a hand up if you woke up right away or didn't need an alarm. Boom. All right, so having fallen victim to that snooze button more times than I can count, guys, I can confidently say that choosing to hit that snooze button can alter the course of the next 24 hours, right? Because you know what sometimes happens when we choose to hit that snooze is you may not realize what time it is when that alarm goes off again and you hit snooze again. And just like that, the momentum of a poor choice has left the station. All right, so picture this. All right, you're getting into bed at night. You're planning your day ahead. You set your alarm for 6 a.m. and have this powerful morning routine scheduled from 6 to 7. Now, if you're like me, that plan is to work in some sort of prayer, reading, journaling, gratitude, meditation, maybe Duolingo. You know, you make your bed, you chug some water, and then you hit the gym or practice yoga. All right, so morning comes and you're just exhausted, right? Your eyes can barely open and your room is cold. So you pull up the covers and you shiver a little bit and you say to yourself, I'm just going to shut my eyes for 5 more minutes. And you open your eyes and somehow it's 45 minutes later. All right, so at that point, you wake up in a panic. Instantly, stress hormones are produced and you start reacting to the situation you're in. You rush to grab your coffee and get to work. So you sip that coffee before chugging some water and you let that acidity hit your empty stomach. The reading you sped through doesn't get absorbed. Your meditation went from an expected 10 minutes to an unfocused 5. And then that full leg day you were planning in the gym with cardio and abs has turned into just a couple hurried supersets before you jump into the shower and you're late for your first meeting. All right, now that story may seem oddly specific, and it's because it's one I go through realistically every 1 to 2 weeks. And I'll admit one of the weak points in my personal development journey has been waking up early. You know, I'm naturally a night owl and I just love getting stuff done while nobody else is up at night. But choosing to hit that snooze button was not my first poor choice that affected my day. The first poor choice was eating within 2 hours of going to sleep the night before. So my food was digesting during my sleep instead of my body being fully at rest. I didn't turn off the screens before getting into bed, so the blue lights kept me awake. So I stayed up later than I should have, meaning that when my first alarm went off, I wasn't well rested enough to make that proper choice. Right now, this isn't to condemn anyone, right? The fact is nobody is perfect. And the more disciplined you are, the more freedom you have to make simple mistakes like this on occasion. But the purpose of sharing these stories is to really just shed light on the compounding effect of those choices. So today I'm just going to attempt to put into perspective just how impactful the little choices you make every day are to your personal development. So once you understand the importance of those choices, we can reverse engineer the goal you want to achieve based on the choices you have to make consistently in order to get there. So once we're done that, we'll just finish by discussing some principles like habit stacking and the compound effect just to make sure it sticks. But I'm going to share my screen real quick and we can dive in here. Can you all see this image on the screen? Okay. What does it make you think of? If anyone wants to unmute the mic.
A factory. I don't know why, but that's what I see when I see it.
A factory. All right. Anyone else? All right, guys. So this is the image seen in Black Mirror's movie Bandersnatch. Has anyone seen it? Seen it thus far? So for those who haven't, it's basically similar to those books that we used to read as kids that had different endings based on the decisions that you made. So if you wanted the main character to go out with his coworkers, you choose one option. If you want him to go home and work on his project, you hit another option. Right, the direction you choose leads to a series of events, results, or consequences based on the severity of that decision. So I want you guys to walk through a scenario with me. All right, this is going to be very, very basic for a scenario, but let's just start at the beginning of a regular day. All right, first, we'll see the worst case scenario of some decisions and some decision making that gain some negative momentum. So let's see here. All right, so this is, guys, super simple PowerPoint. Don't judge on the aesthetics of it, but it's pretty simple. It's a very basic concept. I really want to just drive home the visual of the compound effect of this decision making, right? So let's say you wake up and you decide to hit that snooze bar. All right, then you're low on time before work. So just like that, you choose to skip the gym. Since you're late for work, you're already feeling sluggish. So you make the choice to get a less healthy meal option for lunch. All right, since you got fast food, you're now even more sluggish and tired. So you choose to take a nap or just burn time on your phone instead of making those follow-up calls that you told yourself you'd make. All right, now let's say you spend a day making all the right choices. You choose not to hit snooze and wake up on time. All right. Then with all that time, you choose to just crush your power hour and morning routine, which you have some momentum going, you make a good choice to get to the gym. And since you're already feeling good and healthy, you decide to have a healthy lunch, right, guys? The super basic example of the potential, how high you are up here and how low you are down there. Now, you have plenty of time and energy left in the tank to make those follow-up calls you needed to get done. And guess what? Because you've made those good decisions, you're leading up to those calls, right? You're operating at a higher frequency. So you're confident in yourself for doing the things that you told yourself you would do that morning, right? We all say we're going to start a routine. We all say we're going to make those decisions, but do we actually do it? Do we actually make the choices once our emotions and our physical state in the moment come into play? All right. So now that you're operating at that higher frequency, doing what you told yourself you would do, your prospects can sense that high energy and the confidence on the phone with you, and you end up closing some crucial deals. All right, so this is the power that you have with the choices you make, guys. And again, momentum is real. When you get that dopamine spike from choosing the thing that's best for you, you get addicted to that feeling of accomplishment. You get addicted to choosing what's in your best interest. All right, so I'm sure most of you guys have heard the principle behind the book, Make Your Bed, correct? Basically, you get a neurological high from checking off the box for making your bed in the morning, and that gets you in the zone ready to check the next box. And aside from that, every time you walk by your bed, you remember that you made the right decision that morning, which leads you to feeling better and making more right choices. Okay, guys, so I want everyone to wake up this morning and do these next 2 slides with me. If everyone could grab a pen and paper. Now, you don't have to draw the boxes on this graph, basically just the brackets. And I want you to envision your morning. Start thinking about the little decisions and what they lead to. What does your perfect morning look like if you made all of the right decisions? What would be a morning that just catapults you for the rest of your day, right? The mornings that make you feel like a superhero that can't be stopped, all right? A morning that you know with 100% certainty that even if you did it 75% of the days, repeated over years, it would have a profound impact on your life. So I want you to start filling in those choices. And what would happen if you strung good decision after good decision? Or what would happen if you started sliding and made bad decision after bad decision? So just take a couple seconds and fill that in. Let me know when someone's done, if I could get a volunteer to share what their perfect morning of good choices looks like. I'm curious what choices and decisions you guys realize that you're making each morning. And I realize that sometimes our hands are tied and we don't have the luxury of choice, right? I can imagine with 4 kids in the morning, you're kind of at the whim of what the kids need, right? So I'm sure that's a factor as well. So everyone's chart of what choices they're in control of will be different. So that's why I think it'll be interesting to hear some volunteers.
I actually still make a conscious effort. That's why I get up so early. I get up at 3:45 every day, so that I have my time before they need me.
Beautiful. So let's say for whatever reason you're unable to get up at 3:45 and not have that personal time for yourself. What does the next step or next part of your day look like if you haven't had that time for yourself?
I don't skip it. My body, like at this point, naturally wakes up at that time. Like I cannot sleep past 3:45. I can get up earlier than that, but my body will not let me sleep past it anymore. I look forward to it, and I think my subconscious knows that. So it's just like that's my time. Doesn't matter what day of the week it is. That's my time to get up.
Beautiful. And that's literally my goal, to get there, to be able to be at 3:45. I think I stay up too late, but thankfully I don't have the kids yet to drag me up. But how long did it take you to get to that part where 3:45 was just instinctual and it just happened? It was automatic and you didn't have to think about it.
Over a year. Over a year of setting multiple alarms, getting myself to a place where I started setting alarms starting at 3:15, so that by 3:45 I was up. And now I open my eyes 3:30, 3:45, and the first thing that I say as soon as I open my eyes is thank you. I woke up today, thank you. That's it. And that's where I start. And it's just after that, it's just my standard, get up at 4 o'clock, give myself that 15 minutes to think about my day in advance, give gratitude for that, get up, get my workout in, get ready for the day, do 10 pieces of gratitude, meditate, grab a cup of tea, and go watch the sunrise over the ocean every day.
I love that.
Uninterrupted.
Man, that is the dream right there. Can you talk a little bit about, for those that, aren't at that level to where they are doing exactly what they want to do every morning, can you describe what that year was like of trial and error and kind of failing forward with getting that? How did you feel when you slept through those alarms, or how did you feel when you didn't accomplish all that in the
Frustrated
morning?
with myself because I felt like I was breaking a promise I was making to myself. I think that for me personally, I am a very big, if I make a promise to somebody, I keep it. Especially when it's my best friend, and I consider myself my best friend. So if I make a promise to my best friend, I need to keep that promise. So that's where I felt like I was kind of falling short. Like I was making a promise to myself, I wasn't keeping it. So I was really frustrated, and that would just impact the entire rest of my day. I would rush through work, I would skip meals, I wouldn't eat properly, I wasn't hydrating properly. It would be 3 o'clock in the afternoon before I even ate anything. So my whole day was completely thrown off because of that. I would eat way too late in the day. I was gaining weight, just everything compounded. I felt sick. It was messy. It took a long time to break all of those habits. But again, exactly like you said, one bad choice leads to all bad choices. One good choice can lead to all good choices.
Right. I love that. And you just, like you said, described it perfectly, right? All of those bad choices down here, eating late, being sluggish, skipping the gym, and then you end up down here. And this bar repeated day in, day out could be very, very toxic, right? But instead you kept on making one good choice. So let's say the first day you hit all bad choices, the next day that the last decision you make a good choice. And then the next day you make a good choice around this bar, right? And slowly but surely you started making nothing but those good choices each and every morning. So it was really just trial and error. And the faster you started, the faster you got there, right? You don't say, oh, it's going to take me a year to get better at this, so I don't want to waste a year. But that year is going to come and go regardless. So it's what you do in that year, is going to determine where you end up at the end of that year. So I applaud you for continually failing forward and making those right decisions, because it's not easy, right? And it's uncomfortable, but it was worth it from the sound of your morning now. All right. So does anyone else want to share kind of what a day full of bad decisions looks like? And I know this will be a little more vulnerable and transparent, so I appreciate the volunteer ahead of time.
Yeah, I'll share, Hayden. I think a day full of bad decisions for me would first be to wake up late. I mean, that's really the first bad decision. If I wake up late and I don't go to the gym, my whole day is thrown off. That has become such a part of my identity that it just completely derails me. So I know what a good day looks like. I try as hard as I can to avoid any bad days.
Great, Keegan. Thank you for sharing that. And I want us to do this one more time. If you guys could please just draw one more graph. All right, except this time we're going to do it by planning for a goal that we've been chasing for a long time. Now draw the same chart, and I want you to put that goal in the top right of your bracket like I have right here. Right, we're going to reverse engineer this goal by filling in what decisions we have to string along day after day consistently to achieve this goal. Now I'll walk through my example in my journey to 195 pounds, right? This is completely arbitrary. It's not going to mean much to you guys, right? This is solely based off of my personal body, diet, and health history. It's just strictly being used as an example for the sake of this exercise, right? So at my worst, personally, my worst in terms of decision-making and habits was after my freshman year of college. No big surprise, right? I got up to a personal 225, which was more than I had ever weighed. Again, very personal to me, right? And arbitrary for the rest of this group. So, and this is strictly, again, just an example for the sake of the exercise, but my daily decisions I made to hit this goal of 195 pounds, which I actually just accomplished post-marathon training, was one, I decided to change, right? Just as Suzanne talked about, right? You have to make that decision and commit to doing what's necessary to make that change, right? This should be similar for everyone. It's deciding you want to start making the positive choices, right? From there, I decided to track all of my food intake in the MyFitnessPal app and just hold myself accountable by seeing my eating decisions accumulate throughout the day instead of just recklessly eating every piece of chocolate that enters my doorway, which, you know, I still slip up and do sometimes. But at the end of the day, that was a decision I make. And this isn't exact, right? The food in MyFitnessPal, the calorie intake is not exact. It's just some level of accountability so I can see my choices stacking up. I can see when that number goes from green to red and I've consumed too many calories on that day. I'm not on track for my goal. So that accountability is huge in this decision, all right? From there, I constantly choose to only drink water when thirsty instead of soda or juice, right? And then from that point, the last decision I make every day consistently that allowed me to hit my goal of reaching that weight target was to not eat 2 hours before bed, all right, as opposed to going for a late night dessert, right? So again, I obviously didn't hit my goal, you know, one day after making these good choices, or did I make all the right choices every day? How far you are away from your goal determines how long you have to make these proper decisions to get back on track. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? Meaning years of poor decisions could have gotten you to where you are now, meaning it will take years of right decision-making to get you to where you want to be. But the important thing that you guys realize is that you do have the power to make those choices. You are in control. You have the ability to string together enough proper choices to achieve that dream outcome. So does anyone have a goal that they have in the top of their bracket and maybe some necessary choices to be made consistently that they want to share? The smaller group, so you guys are going to be on the spot.
Hayden, for me, I've been working on this now for several months. Keegan has been a wonderful coach. And it's the mindset. Absolutely. Until I was mentally and emotionally prepared to do the work and to accept all the good, the bad, the ugly, and for my future, because you really have to start looking inward. When you start making a decision and you're setting goals, you have to know what it takes to motivate you. Um, the consistency factor is a huge point. For me, my biggest challenge, and still is adding more movement into my day to day. You know, it's not an excuse. It's a black and white. I'm battling horrible knee and back problems again, and it really can be very discouraging. But then I'm looking at this, and it's exactly what you said. We have to keep the chain going. We have to be consistent. I have the power and the control every day. And I have to understand that that's just, I have that power every day when I get up. And I need to do that every single day. And it's not easy. It's not easy. But the results have already been empowering to me, for the fact that, you know, when I'll never forget when I hit 30 pounds down, I started to cry. I started crying, still do. So good points you're making, both of you, because it falls right in line.
Love that, Marlene. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know that that's not an easy journey as well. So I applaud you just for committing to that and trying to be that best version of yourself and seeking help, right? And making those tough choices to stay consistent, which it's not easy. Consistency, I hear over and over and over again, is the toughest part of it, right? To do it day in and day out. And I'd like to shed some light, because I used to struggle with consistency so much. I would go through really high highs and low lows. And I would reach a certain point in my health where I just said enough's enough, and I would kill myself to get back to equilibrium, right? To get back to par, where I would do 2-a-day workouts, and I would starve myself and go through this low, and I would get super fit. But then as soon as I was done with that, I would slip and I would go back to the poor diet, and I would say, oh, I hit my goal. Now I can take it easy. And I go through those high highs and low lows. And what really helped me with consistency was lowering the bar for myself to make it more sustainable change. Instead of saying, I'm going to work out 2 days a week and starve myself and only eat, you know, less than 1,000 calories a day and lose this 30 pounds in a month. Instead, I said, I'm going to set a goal of 5 pounds a month. Right. And in order to make 5 pounds a month, this is the decision I have to make. I just simply have to skip dessert, or I simply have to switch to nothing but water and cut out soda. Or I simply have to not eat fast food. Like the smallest decisions, the 0.1% differences is a more sustainable change. And as long as you have that patience, consistency will just come naturally. As long as you lower the bar for yourself and not high highs and low lows, but sustainable, 1% growth. And that consistency will come naturally. So thank you for sharing that, Marlene. And all right, guys, I'm going to fly through the rest here. So bear with me. And I know I might be beating a dead horse here. I really just want to drive down this visual, right? That your life up until this point is simply the sum total of the decisions you made that got you here. Now, I've made the decision for 610 days in a row to study Spanish on my Duolingo app every morning. All right. And then when you know it, I was knocking doors for solar last year and came across a Spanish speaking homeowner, right? I had made the good decision 300 days in a row at that time to practice Spanish every day. And when I knocked that door to the homeowner, I was able to sell that homeowner a solar system in Spanish and generate $6,000 in profit for my company, simply because of the good decisions I made day in and day out for 300 days in a row at that time. All right, did I know my Spanish practice would make me money? No, right? I just knew it was the right decision to make daily to get closer to my goal of being fluent, right? And again, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So for every choice that you make, there is a consequence or a result. Inputs equal outputs. It's super simple, right? We're programs in that way, all right? The faster you can rack up the number of positive inputs, is the faster your outputs will look the way you want them to look. So has anyone here read The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy? Amazing book, probably top 5, top 10 on my list. And it's basically the strategy of reaping huge rewards from small, seemingly insignificant actions. taking 100% responsibility for everything that happens to you, because these small choices plus consistency plus time equals significant results. Now, everything is a decision. And I hope now the image of the bracket will flash in your mind when you need a reminder to make a choice that your future self will appreciate or regret, right? And that's the game, guys. Based on what you've learned from your past, what actions can you take in the present to set your future self up for better success? And that's how you personally develop yourself. Now, every time you get in the car, you choose music or a podcast. They say 1 year's worth of podcasts in the car is the equivalent of 1 semester of college, but you have to make that decision day in, day out for a year in the car. While you work out, you can choose to try a little extra weight on the bar, or you can choose to take it easy that day. But if you do 1 extra rep on each set and an average of 3 sets a day, how many extra reps is that by the end of the year? All right. So let's see, if you remember that training from a few months ago, actually, I won't get into that out of the sake of time, but Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill describes this as your other self, right? At the intersection of every decision, think to yourself, what would the best version of myself choose to do in this moment? And when you reach a state where you're consistently aware of your choices and the unintended consequences or benefits that each choice will bring, you'll learn to adjust your choices based on what best serves you and others. And that's when you've reached true self-mastery, which is what I believe the purpose of personal development is. And just to wrap up here, guys, the reason I think it's so important is that I believe we were all given a certain amount of potential, right? A destiny, say, that if we made all of the right choices, the top of that chart for each one of us is different. And that's who we had the potential to become. If we made all the right choices, this is what we were capable of. And I believe everyone's goal in life should get as close to that highest potential as you can possibly get. All right, so that's what I got for you guys on the power of choices and personal developments. Any thoughts or questions before we wrap up here?
So Hayden, I just want to say thank you so much. Loved all the visuals, and the bracket was really interesting to see. I like the ascent and descent. It kind of gives you that sense of the impact for every single day. Real quick, I just want to share one story, and then we'll see what questions you guys have for Suzanne and Hayden. But, you know, Hayden, one of the things that really stood out based on what you shared with me is a story that I heard, and this always stuck with me. And regardless of whether you believe in a particular God or whatever your faith is, you know, at the end of the day, we're all going to face death at some point, right? And there was this visual that stood out to me forever. And he said, imagine yourself passing and you are in heaven with God, and you guys are hand in hand. It's just the two of you, and you are walking together, and you're in the clouds, so you can see the footprints in the clouds. You see his set of footprints, and you see your set of footprints, and then off to the left, there's a third set of footprints that are unidentified. And you continue walking with God hand in hand. And at some point, you look to him and say, whose footprints are those to the left? And he says, those are the footprints of who you could have been. And that always stuck with me. And it really resonates when you talk about the power of choice, because we always have the choice of which path to take. Every single decision is your own. Are you choosing to be in your lane and staying stagnant and not growing? Or are you expanding your life and your horizon and pushing yourself and putting yourself in uncomfortable situations so that you can become the best version of yourself? So that always stuck with me. But Matt, Marlene, Ashley, I'd love to hear if you guys have any questions or comments or concerns or anything at all. Matt, we haven't really heard from you today.
Yes, what a novel concept. The world doesn't revolve around me. I revolve around the rest of the world. So to me, you know, I thought about the whole pyramid thing, and it's like, you know what? I love my sleep. If I could sit there and sleep until 11 o'clock, you know, fine. You know, I have enough Jewish guilt as it is, that really, is like the forest. I mean, there's like the forest, but before the forest, there was Jewish guilt. So that's why I said use a Schwartz, so but ultimately, I suffer from depression, anxiety. I struggle with it every day. And so I'm constantly reflecting on what I'm doing and what I'm not doing. And so that really drives my life. But also, I look at the world around me. What's going on in the world with Afghanistan, Cuba, Haiti, the floods, the fires. I mean, the world right now is really fucked up. And so ultimately, I'm grateful to be around, be grateful to be living. I'm grateful I'm not homeless. I can put food on my table. So all those things, really resonate with me. And also, I look at my parents and other people in my life that people have come and gone. And so ultimately, when you're handed rejection more than success, it humbles you. And if it doesn't humble you, then you're just doomed to make the same and repeat the same mistakes over and over again. So ultimately, I'm constantly struggling with myself, and that's always will be the case. But ultimately, I want to be one of the haves as opposed to one of the have-nots. So, like I even made a decision, not to sit there and go out for a Cheesecake Factory because nothing on their menu is appealing to me, or go and watch YouTube late at night because I had the self-control of a 2-year-old. So ultimately, you have to parent yourself. And so you have to realize what you're doing, what you're not doing, and how to improve on every day, and like Natasha Bedingfield sings, the rest is still unwritten. So.
I love
Matt,
that.
have you ever tried analyzing your anxiety?
I have, and that's a whole nother Dr. Phil, Jerry Springer story for that. So.
I love your analogy. Okay. So I want you to take a couple of things into consideration. Okay. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I personally deal with severe anxiety due to PTSD from an abusive relationship. And I treat it myself with analyzing. So I want to kind of give you something that may help. I mean, everybody's different, so it may help, may not, but I just want to give this to you just in case it will help. The definition of anxiety, the breakdown of anxiety, is worrying about something in the past that you cannot change, or worrying about something in the future that has not happened yet. Either way, it is out of your control. So coming to that understanding of this is something that happened and now I'm reacting to it, or this is something that could potentially happen and I'm reacting to it, kind of helps you kind of come back to front and center of what's going on right now in the exact moment that you can do, that you do have control over. And a lot of times that helps kind of reduce the feeling of the anxiety so that you can make a plan of how to handle things in a different way. So again, I'm not saying it's going to work for you or anybody else, but it's something that works for me. And when other people that I've shared it with, it's worked for them. So it might be something to take into consideration. Sometimes it's just figuring out what you have control over and what you don't. Now you're talking about like the news and things like that. I can tell you, I got rid of cable 16 years ago. We haven't had cable. We won't have cable. We don't watch the news. We don't get the newspaper. If something's happening, we're going to get an alert. That's just the way that it is. You're right. The world is kind of a shit storm right now, but we have to look at what do we have control over in our own personal environments. And I know that sounds kind of harsh because there's a lot going on. There's certain things we can do to help, and there's certain things that we can't do. And we need to take that ownership of the things that we can't do off of our plate, because we have so much going on in our own lives that we need to look at, and the people that are directly around us and that we can directly impact in a positive way. We need to make that more of a priority of what we can do to help change the world than worrying about the big things that we can't really fix. If there's a big thing that you can fix, go for it. But you have to remember that that's a trigger of anxiety, is worrying about all of these things that you don't have that control over. So just, something to think about.
Thank you for sharing, Suzanne.
Absolutely.
That's a very critical point too. And I think Stephen Covey modeled that really well with the circle of concern and circle of influence. Marlene, Ashley, do you have any last minute thoughts, comments, questions, concerns before we close out?
I don't really have much great stuff to say today, other than I did snooze more times than I would like to, and my morning did not go how I hoped. And then my 3-year-old screamed and cried at me because he couldn't have Oreos for breakfast. So yeah, my morning didn't go great. I didn't handle that very well because I didn't have like my morning time, go as planned. Anyways, great exercises. And then just to kind of like reframe the way that you think of things, like Hayden said, like it is a choice to hit that snooze button. Like it can feel so habitual, like, oh, no big deal, but like it truly is a choice. And until you really focus on that, you can reverse it. So anyways, I'll be working on that.
Yeah, Ashley, that's good. And the purpose of this, I promise, was not to condemn anyone, because again, a habitual victim of the snooze button. It's solely just the visual, this graph, the bracket, the fact that you're a sum total of the decisions you made. And if you look back, you can connect the dots of that decision led to that result, which led to that decision, which led to that result. And you can always look back and connect the dots. So in tandem with that, you can now look forward and say, what dots do I have to connect ahead of time, and reverse engineer that goal you want with the decisions that have to be made in order to achieve that goal. So that was the point of the exercise. There's just a visual that everything is that's in your control. It comes down to a choice whether to do it or not to do it. Sometimes it's not easy, and no one, I don't care who you are, always makes the right choices. But let's say you make a wrong choice. Now this is your potential, right? This top bar here, not the bottom. I don't know if, am I still sharing my screen? Are you able to follow the mouse? So you may make a wrong decision, and that just changes your potential. Now your potential is down here instead of up here. But this is a perpetual, never ending graph with infinite amount of decisions and boxes, right? But you can't change this first decision that you made, but you can change the decisions you make going forward once you become aware of that first decision, right? So you can't change the past. Don't worry about it. It's out of your control. Don't bother regretting or being anxious about it. It's where are you right now, and what can you do going forward, I think is most important. So give yourself grace from the past and say, I have a new potential. I'm going to shoot for that. So that's the visual. I hope it drove home.
Yeah, absolutely. And this brings up the quote, a good life is the sum total of good years. Good years are the sum total of good months. Good months are the sum total of good weeks, which are the sum total of good days, which are the sum total of good hours, good minutes, and good seconds. So every single second counts 100%, just based on that compound effect that Hayden's talking about. Guys, we really do have to close out, but Marlene, do you have any last minute thoughts, comments, questions?
No, just great. I absolutely love this group, and both speakers today, y'all were just on point, phenomenal. And I just want to say thank you, and thank you to Keegan always. You go, crush your day.
Well, everybody, thank
And
you
happy
so much.
birthday, Marlene.
Thank you.
Marlene, it's my birthday too.
Hey.
Birthday.
Oh, we are special people. Bada bing.
I was 24 squad. Kobe Bryant Day.
I hope you guys have amazing celebrations
that
with
either.
people that you love.
Yes. Oh, by the way, my parents were married 63 years yesterday, and they're both alive.
That's crazy.
Amen.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for your time, for your thoughts, your questions, your comments, and feedback. Happy birthday, Marlene. Happy birthday, Hayden. I hope you guys both have amazing days, and this helped you set the tone. If any of you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, special thank you and shout out to Suzanne and Hayden for your thoughts and your presentation today. And if anybody needs to get in touch with anybody, just let me know. I love you guys and have an amazing day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.